This is the Leadership in Insurance podcast, brought to you by FinPro Search Partners.
Insurance companies are businesses and they need to look for the long term and be sustainable.
We went from 0 to 1 and now it's going from 1 to 100.
Insurance as a concept, as a kind of service, is brilliant. The execution is what we're looking at now.
I think the companies that are going to succeed are the ones that are going to understand and master the art of intent.
When we talk about innovation, we lean too heavily to think about technology, and we don't think about creating a culture of innovation.
I think innovation is essentially continuous improvement of existing processes and platforms and product.
Right? It's got to be easy. It's got to be seamless.
Hello and welcome to the Leadership in Insurance podcast. I'm your host, Alex Bond, and I'm very lucky today to be joined by Andrew, CEO of UnderwriteMe. Andrew, welcome. Good to see you.
Thanks, Alex. It's lovely to be here. I appreciate the invite on your podcast.
Yeah, this is our second time trying to record it, isn't it? After we were both ill.
Yeah, the season of coughing fits is hopefully going to be behind us soon.
I hope so, although I've probably cursed the recording now, so we're both going to break out, but hopefully we'll make it through. So we'll try and do that. I was lucky enough to obviously catch up with you before we've done the recording, but it's always customary on this podcast for you, Andrew, if you can introduce yourself and obviously the UnderwriteMe business.
Yeah, so thanks again, Alex. So my name is Andrew. Most people will actually probably know me by Andy. So I'm CEO for UnderwriteMe. The way I describe UnderwriteMe, we're an Insurtech organization. We work in the life and health insurance world. We have got 4 locations that we're based in, and we've got clients and partners all across the world, actually. There are 2 parts to our business. The first part is our distribution platform, where in the UK market, we essentially power about 1/5 to 1/4 of the advisor market buying protection insurance here. Our key differentiator really is the fact that we try to bring underwriting as close to the point of sale for advisors and for their customers as possible, allowing them to get buy now prices as quickly and make their journey as easy as possible. The other half of our business is selling automation solutions and really giving our clients automation solutions on the underwriting and claims sides of their business, again, in the health and protection world. Really around, again, trying to make buying insurance as easy as possible. And that's really our kind of mission statement, really, trying to make insurance more accessible for more people as easy as possible, trying to give them more peace of mind and, I guess, confidence for generations financially.
Yeah, nice. I'm intrigued by the 2 parts of the business, and I mean, there's a lot I'm intrigued about the business and the tenure of it. But I think we'll get to that later. But you've got this advisor-facing portal, then you've got a B2B automation platform. How do those sides of the business inform each other, or do they not? Do they create tension because they're parallel but disparate tracks, really?
Yeah, so probably less so tension, to be honest. I guess the good part about the setup of our organization is that we touch quite a lot of the ecosystem. They are both part of the ecosystem of how customers and advisors access insurance and health and protection. So I guess we're quite lucky the fact that we touch a lot of that value chain. I guess the upside for us is the fact that we understand, therefore, more of that. So we understand the advisor challenges that they've got with their customers and how do they bring insurance to them more easily, and also with insurance companies and their customers, which is a slightly different perspective and the challenges and the ups and downs that they face as well. So for us, that probably gives us a better view than most, really, of that overall value chain and allows us to adapt our products, adapt our services to kind of best fit the market demands, from underwriting the new business stage all the way through to, I guess, when customers need it the most, at claim stage at the very end where it matters.
Yeah, I think so. It's that full 360 kind of relationship with the customer. I was going to ask you actually this personal question about your own working history. I mean, life claims, underwriting strategy, and then all the way through to, was that direct and then reinsurance? You very much on the underwriting track and leadership within traditional insurance businesses. What drew you to kind of making this kind of leap into this world? And I just wondered culturally how different you found it.
Yeah, you're right. I've been in direct insurance, then reinsurance for a very long time, like 2 decades plus
Mm,
before I moved into this type of space. So I guess in some ways it was maybe another natural progression in my own personal career.
mm,
But actually, I was speaking to some industry colleagues, industry friends, the other night, last week. And I guess we all share quite a common purpose. There's a lot of people that stay in this industry for a very long time because they believe that the purpose that it has and the fact that
mm.
it does provide social good for consumers at the end of the day. We know that there's just too much people that are underprotected. And I guess this was personally speaking, another challenge for me that would grow me personally in my career. And when this opportunity came up, I kind of reveled at the chance of taking it on. It was a stretch, but it's the best stretch I've ever taken in my 20 odd years career, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I mean, I worked in insurance when I was very early on, and one of the things that I've always been grateful about the role that I ended up taking outside was the progression in underwriting is quite linear. So, I always joke that I was in claims and then I wanted to move into underwriting, and everyone was like, "Yeah, but you chose claims." And I was like, "Didn't know I had to pick a side so early." But and look, we're much better at that now. But I definitely think that was the approach. So, this using your skill set in a different way is really interesting to me. But back to the business, UnderwriteMe. There's a lot of chat about AI, obviously, from kind of a sort of shifting from an AI first approach. What does this look like? Is it revolution or quite evolution? Is it,
Yeah.
what's more accurate then?
Yeah, quite interesting, right? I guess underwriting and claims is hard and
Hmm.
time consuming and complex and often involves a lot of very technical people to get from A to B to help get customers on risk.
Yeah.
I guess all insurers want to grow and they definitely don't want their expenses to grow at the same rate as they want their top line to grow. And they've all looked towards automation solutions for a number of years now. And I guess the leap towards AI in the last 5, 6, 7 years has really been the natural progression for almost every company that's been trying to kind of continue to grow, but without growing its expense base. And we are no different as an organization ourselves. So I guess in terms of quiet evolution or big revolution, it's quite different depending on where I look. If I look at the markets we operate that are very established and traditional, like the UK or like the Australia market, for instance, I would say it's much more quiet evolution. They're much more careful about landing quite large AI solutions into the new business or claims flows. And I guess we deal with highly regulated, difficult problems to solve. So it's quite natural that you don't want to change that dynamic very quickly because it can have kind of disastrous consequences. And that's the way we've approached it as an organization as well. When we're bringing our AI solutions to market, particularly in those types of markets, we're bringing them carefully. We're bringing them with a lot of thought about the governance and controls that insurance companies and regulators need to see when you bring these products to market.
Hmm.
So that's probably on the more established ones. The less well-established markets, it is a bit more of grand revolution in some places. So I've come back from India, another trip to India recently, and it's maybe not complete evolution, but they are embracing AI at a rate of knots that is not seen out of maybe China might be the only other market I see kind of really embracing it in the way that they do. And there's very good reasons why they have, but pretty much every part of the value chain, some form of machine learning or AI is now forming a part of that ecosystem. And they've had to do that for very good reasons, that the market is growing exponentially. And fraud is quite a high part of that market, and therefore risk control and using third-party data and the power, I guess, that AI gives you over that is a necessity to operate well and grow in that market sustainably.
Mm. Yeah, and that kind of goes into this conversation that we had before. I love this. I can't remember how you put it, but it's just as general consensus, just favouring gradual progress rather than waiting for perfection.
Yeah.
But but then we talked about we work in a risk averse industry. So like, how do you make that case? Or or is everyone accepting of that case? Maybe I suppose as well.
Yeah, yeah. I've had a few good mentors in the past that have helped grow my career, and a few good discussions about this exact topic, actually, to be honest. And it's
Mm,
something that I talk to my teams and our folks about, that often we spend a lot of time waiting for the perfect solution. And as I mentioned a minute ago, we operate in a very, very highly regulated industry. If we get it wrong, it can be wrong quite disastrously. People write policies now, and when they need them might be 30 years' time. So you don't
yeah.
often see the consequences of doing it badly very quickly. So in that regard, people can be often a bit more risk averse. And I think that is okay. I don't think there's a place where we want to go completely gung ho, but there's
Yeah.
definitely a place for incremental change a bit quicker than we've probably seen. People
Mm,
not waiting for the absolute perfect solution, the perfect role, the perfect partner, the perfect innovative new bit of technology. I think incremental growth will see us as an organization, and certainly partners that we work with, have much bigger impact than they will waiting for a grand solution to solve all problems. And that
mm,
is definitely changing. It was definitely a lot slower in this industry than I probably observed when I look elsewhere, particularly into P&C worlds, where a lot more chances are probably taken in that market than certainly in life and health. But it's definitely been a bit more careful. But it's always been my advice to my teams, like, better to do something quickly than nothing and wait for perfection and end up doing nothing.
yeah.
Really taking that incremental step forward and learning quickly and adapting is far better than waiting for something that's perfect.
Mm. It's interesting. We were having this wasn't a technology thing actually, but we were having a conversation about this internally. So there's two worlds in which we operate. We're a research firm, but we work with venture-backed businesses. So venture-backed businesses need scale at speed,
Mhm.
and then search is like laborious, rigorous work. And it's trying to adapt those things. So we were talking about the sort of the very early stages of Finpro. I used to come in with this search process and go, right, I'm going to map the entire market, profile everyone, and then I'll come back to you and make recommendations. And these venture-backed businesses looked at me like I was crazy because you just needed iteration. So even in process, without technology, I think there's a sort of temptation sometimes towards comprehensive rigor in a way that's against progression and movement.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think the bit that we sometimes miss by waiting for stopping to move just forward is people want to feel like they are making progress.
yeah,
The whole big bang and waiting for the end result to come is great, and it's very grand, and the
mm,
teams that have built it and the people that have been involved will have a great celebratory um, event afterwards. But something we said of people feeling like they're making a difference day in, day out, and gradually moving forward, making a difference for the customer or the distributor, whatever their problem is they're trying to solve. I feel like that garners a bigger buzz internally and with partners
mm.
than the big showcase thing at the end.
Yeah. No, I completely. Yeah, momentum is everything. Well, it's a bit like when you see the graph of these like quote unquote overnight success tech businesses. They're still probably 10 years old and they still need 12 years to get out. And it's
Hmm.
but it's always like, oh, that happened overnight. It's like, well, if you consider 12 years overnight, then maybe. But life and health, as you touched on as well. I mean, we've mentioned this before. It's the tenure that you're looking at. It's the 30-year contract. It's the as opposed to P&C where it might be year on year. So is that the underlying natural reason why we haven't seen as much progress probably in life and health? Do you think?
I think it's part of it. I think to compare P&C with life and health is the easy comparison that some people
Yeah.
will make. And don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot that where we will look towards P&C and the things that they do because they can do it quicker. I guess their markets are just so highly competitive, so fast
Yeah.
paced. They've got a ridiculous amount of data very, very quickly.
Mm,
They don't have to wait for the types of data that might come in the industries that we work in before you can test and learn as quickly as they can. So I think that they're always going to be a little bit ahead of the game. And I guess there's products within P&C world where they're mandatory or semi-mandatory, so they have to be out there really kind of understanding risk and really pushing the boundaries, whether that's risk internally or technology. So I feel like they're always going to be a bit ahead of us, but I honestly think with the access to data that we're seeing in certain countries from a life and health perspective, whether that is directly relatable data, whether it's like health data that is becoming a bit more available to customers in their own hands, or whether it's proxies for these types of things, that is moving us along way faster than we could have been before. It's very traditional research based and waiting for answers, and medicine moves very slowly in life and health world, so therefore it takes time. I think that is definitely changing, and we should keep looking to P&C for where's the inspiration sometimes. But I think we are moving forward faster, but I just don't think we'll ever be as fast as those guys. A bit jealous. I attended an event the other evening, and honestly, some of the things that they are doing on policies, where the sums assured just dwarf anything we do in life and health, when they start to talk in hundreds of millions and billions, and those are numbers we don't really talk about on individual policies in any shape or form, and they are doing stuff that is at the absolute cutting edge is quite impressive, and I guess gives me in this type of role some energy about how do we approach these types of things and try and push us as fast as we can.
Yeah, it's interesting what you can borrow. I've talked a few times that I was at an event in Qatar a few years back, and it was an Insurtech pitch, and just seeing the application of different technologies in different ways. Like there was this, I've talked apparently a cow's nose is as unique as a fingerprint. So there was this software that was basically dealing with herds and insurance, but obviously you could apply it in different ways. It was interesting to pull the inspiration from that and then kind of like put it in different markets, and obviously P&C into here. And that leads me on to a conversation that we had actually. I remember one of the parts of the conversation we said, you said the hardest part isn't building software, it's knowing what to build. And I love that. It's like, how do you tackle that discovery problem in a software environment?
Yeah, I think but CTO probably hates when I say that now. Obviously, it puts lots of pressure on his engineering teams, mind you, but it's becoming very, very true, and I'm seeing that every single day at the minute, that our engineering teams are being able to build things just darn quickly. The processes that they've been able to adapt towards, the technology that they're able to use internally, we can spin up proof of concepts very, very easily now, which has the danger of then, well, let's just spin up anything and keep iterating from there. And often that misses the kind of really key part of knowing what you should be actually focused on. And we've seen that in the past, and we've seen it personally. I'm sure plenty of organizations have seen in the past where you can build yourself up quite a nice pot of tech debt if you don't really focus on what you should be building properly and really getting that early phase of discovery correct. And that's not to say that should paralyze you entirely, but really truly understanding what you should be focused on before you just go off and build it is definitely the right way that we approach it. But that is a bit of a challenge now, because building can be quite quick. So making sure that we're really getting our product teams scaled to the right size with the right tools to do their job fast enough to get the right engagement with clients, consumers, and partners that we've already got, to make sure we understand the problems to be solved with them, so that we can properly build the right things a bit more quickly, is becoming extremely important. I was chatting with one of the guys that demoed one of their POCs last week or so, and I said, "Look, this is fantastic. What do you need?" And his answer was, "I need direction." Like they're building things, and it's now how do they take it forward, if you like, and it's really making sure that all parts of how we operate as an organization can equally go at the right pace with each other. I guess the worst thing you want to do is create a load of tech debt that you have to manage in the future, but even worse than that is over-promising to a client and not being able to deliver and building tech debt. That is a doubly worse place to be.
Yeah. So it's a conundrum that I talk about quite a lot with SaaS businesses. On a similar note, as I sort of inhibitors of innovation, we talked about governance as well, and how do you How do you innovate in really heavily regulated market, and governance seems to be the real barrier now? Yeah, how do you tackle that challenge?
Yeah, I think we need to respect that that's the type of world we operate in for a start. So I think
Hmm, hmm.
not oversimplifying that we work in a incredibly highly regulated, extremely important industry for consumers, and that is something that we should bear in mind. Um, and I think, as I mentioned a second ago, we can build product so quickly that that is not the challenge anymore. Probably taking people on the journey of what we are building, being able to go through the right rigor to ensure that risk and compliance departments, whether that's internally or externally, and regulators are brought along the journey of the kind of products that we are building is becoming a much more important part of bringing a product to market. So I think for me, it's now having a conscious time to actually do that early and get them involved at the right stages to make sure that they're being brought along with what we are trying to build as an organization. That is probably the first thing that I would say. Second thing, I think for kind of risk and compliance departments, my own included, and others out there, is probably them investing time in understanding the types of products that are now going to start hitting all organizations and really making themselves ready for the other side of the discussion. I think that are probably the two things: bringing them in early and probably upskilling some of our compliance and regulatory colleagues, but also making sure our guys that are eager to build things have got a very clear awareness that this is an important industry we operate in, and making sure that we keep that in mind is paramount.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some interestingly cavalier stuff, I would say, a few years back when I was interested. Some interesting panels I served on, and even to be honest, clients I'd worked with where they were sort of asking people to come in and head up an insurance division, and it's probably a spin out. And the amount of times they were like told these very ambitious, aggressive software companies going, "You just can't do that," and they're going, "Yeah, but we like to break things." No, no, legally you can't do that. And we had some really funny conversations. Talking
Yeah.
about that world, what do you think about the future? You know, you were an underwriter, you were an underwriting leader, you were a CUO. What does this mean as we kind of take this kind of, if we're really honest about automation's taking more of the process, how do you see that human underwriter role changing? Does it exist? Yeah, you must have given that some thought.
Yeah. Actually, it's a question I give a lot of thought to quite regularly. I guess sitting in this
Mm,
type of role now, where we're looking to automate a lot of the processes that the teams that I used to work with, did day in, day out. I think what I always reflect on is that being in this industry for well over 2 decades now and seeing automation being brought in various different guises over that entire period. And underwriting has still grown. Like we have made ourselves smarter and allowed ourselves to grow without having
mm,
to increase headcount.
mm,
And I think that's the first thing. I don't think that this next evolution is going to probably change that. I absolutely see a place for technical underwriting, technical claims assessors to exist for a very long time.
mm.
I think what we'll need to adapt, and this is where probably underwriters at different stages in their career will need to think about, is how will their profession adapt and what do they need to do personally to keep up with that? I
Yeah.
think we'll definitely see underwriting development roles start to change into more the middle part of the Venn diagram between super technical underwriting specialist and a AI data scientist. How do they bridge the gap between communicating between those two sets of expertise to make sure you're getting best out of both? Rather than
Mm,
needing to be both, they probably just need to have the right communication and be able to articulate problems across the piece. Um, I think the other element is thinking that for the technical underwriters that are going to stay in that place, that I think what we'll very quickly see is that they'll have technical medical evidence, they'll have technical financial evidence, and then they'll probably have something from a machine. And they're
yeah.
going to have to stitch those three things together. And that
Mm,
might be a prediction, that might just be lots of information, but moving away from the world that they've operated in before, which is very familiar when it comes to kind of medical and financial evidence. They're going to have to deal with this third element. And I think being able to face into that, and leaders within our profession giving our underwriting and claims professionals the tools to do that now, I think is essential. That's the kind of changes I see. But do I see the roles disappearing? Absolutely not. Do I see them adapting? Absolutely yes.
Yeah, 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 and I think it's just as simple as that. I think you know, you and I talked about this, and I'm going to be a bit of a broken record. I think for the next couple of years, it's just that I just don't see the level of investment into training and skills that I think we need to see. And everyone's very excited about all the automation we can do, and it's like, okay, but that changes the role, and we don't know how to train people that work in this environment, and that's where leadership has got the quality of leadership is going to really dictate the ability for people to evolve correctly and build these modern insurance businesses. And it's good for me. I'll be in business for a while.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. No, I agree. One of my favorite things is talking to the kind of next generation of who's coming through underwriting, who's coming through claims, now who's coming into technology world now that I'm sitting in this type of seat. But that's the sort of thing that gives me energy as someone that's been around for a while and seen lots of change, and how do we help them grow in their careers, frankly, from the ones that really want to be super technical specialists to the ones that want to use that as a baseline to really develop into something different. For me, that's personally the thing that gives me more energy than anything else, actually.
Yeah, no, love that. That's a really positive way to bring the episode to a close. So, Andrew, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to have you as a guest on the Leadership in Insurance podcast.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.